new. So I'm happy to introduce everyone to Tarryn Anderson. For those of you that have been there, we've sort of chatted a little bit about how she's worked with children and has a wealth of experience in yoga and meditation and that sort of thing. And certainly we are dealing with families not always at their best time. And so any tools that could help parents with their kids. And certainly I think if we listen carefully, we'll learn a lot of things that'll help us through some stressful situations. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Tarryn to help us learn better ways to live.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Linda. Thanks for having me. And I'm honored to be able to speak today and hope that at least one thing sticks out of this talk today. And the whole purpose is in helping the little souls around you. And if you have any questions that come after the talk, or for those that are watching the replay, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm here for you. So a little bit about me. I'm the owner and founder of Little Souls Child Wellness. I'm a child wellness educator. I help little souls navigate this life with more ease through yoga and mindfulness practices that they take with them off their mat into the world. I'm the mother of 2 big souls in little bodies and have been teaching and working with children since 2015. I teach yoga and mindfulness in schools, in studios, privately and online. The biggest reach I've been so blessed to have had is teaching 150 children in one class. That is what the pandemic brought in, allowing me to be able to be online and to be able to get this magic to as many souls as possible. And that led to over 800 children a week. So it is my purpose and passion and mission to be able to reach as many children as possible. So the topics that we'll be covering is firstly finding your inner sanctuary, your inner resource, because I find as an adult, when we are coming forward from a position of that inner calm, a lot more work can be done on the outside of ourselves. We'll learn about the 5 love languages, on how children experience the 5 love languages, and that can even bring forward into your relationships going forward, working with people or working with children. A very important thing that has saved me and my kids several times is the treasure box moment. It's a concept which keeps the communication channels open and alive. And then I have some resources for you that you can use afterwards. So starting off in finding your inner resource and your sanctuary, I'd like you to understand, why is it that we start here? And as mentioned before, it's important for you to be able to find your own inner calm before you're able to radiate that out into the world around you. Be that if you're dealing with a stressful family environment, or if you're dealing with a stressful client in trying to help them out, this inner sanctuary will bring that backdrop to the constant environment that you're dealing with. Okay, so allow yourself to sit back, and we'll go through a gentle guided meditation, and allow yourself to get a comfortable seat. So gently close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, and bring yourself into your body. And I know that sounds really different. Sometimes we are so rushed during the day that it really is difficult to fully come into your being. Rock from side to side, just to feel your sit bones on your seat. And take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and let it go. And deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and release. And take one more breath, deepest one yet today. Deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and let it go. And allow your breath to come to its natural rhythm. And just feel your chest expanding and collapsing with each breath. No need to change it, just notice. And bring your awareness down to your feet. Notice your feet making contact with the earth beneath you. Allow yourself to sit back, to be fully supported by the seat. Let your awareness land in the part of your body that's making the most contact with the ground or the seat. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and let it go. And one more deep breath in. And out. Allowing your awareness of the part of your body that's most contact with the ground or the seat. Use this as part of your grounding, anchoring source. And for a moment, notice what is present for you. Tuning into the layers of your being. Notice how you feel in your physical body. And name that to yourself. Do you feel heaviness? Are you tense? Possibly comfortable or relaxed? Just notice how you feel in your physical body. Then bring your awareness to your energetic body. Do you feel drained, energized, or calm? And then finally come to your emotional body. Are you feeling turmoil? Are you clear and settled, peaceful or happy? And just name it. There's nothing you need to do. Just bring the awareness to it. With the breath soft and smooth, bring to your mind's eye, to your heart, to your awareness, someone or a place that makes you feel safe and supported. Rest your hand over your heart center when you find it. Breathe here. Observe the sensation and the felt sense as you experience this person's presence or the magic of this place. Take note of any scent, any color that comes to mind, or any sensation in your being with this person or in your place. And breathe it all in. Allow it to seep into your being. Open up to the curiosity, learning, and compassion to yourself and others from this space. And take a deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth and let it go. One more deep breath in. And release. And gently create tiny movements with your fingers and your toes. Keep your eyes closed. And for one last time, reassess how you're feeling in your physical body. Your energetic body. Your emotional body. And allow light into your eyes and welcome yourself back into the room, into the space. And allow yourself just to absorb that experience. So this technique is called resourcing. What it does is it's pulling from what feels good and what makes you feel good and brings that into your being, into the here and now. It gives you the strength, calmness, and peace to handle whatever it is that you're handling in the present moment. So I invite you to, if you've never created a special place like this before, to visit it as often as you can. The more you tap into it, the more it becomes the backdrop to your daily living, where you're able to pull from that magic whenever you need to. So if you have a difficult client coming in, give yourself 2 minutes to tap into this resource, to tap into this magic place, this calm, this peace, this groundedness. And if you come into a tricky situation with a family member, again, the more you practice it, the more you'll be able to tap into this moment and then bring all of that peace and calmness into where you're at in the here and now. So this is something that I do with children, and in a more fun way, we create our happy islands. And it's absolutely amazing in understanding where their little minds go. And it's something I'd like to encourage you to do with children that you're working with, or even if children do come into your environment, is just ask them where their happy place is. You know, what does it smell like? What does it look like? Are any other people there with them? But let them know that no one has to be there with them. It can be a place that they just enjoy by themselves. And allow them to create their happy islands. I find that by me knowing where my children's happy islands are, when I find that they're in that heightened moment of stress, I invite them to put their head down on their desk or lie on the bed or lie with their feet up the wall, to then just give them that moment to go to their happy island and get all the goodness and happiness and peace that they can from being there, and then bring that back to where they're at. So in a way, it's okay to request a pause, you know, and give them that space to be able to do that. So welcome to your inner resource, your sanctuary. This was the first time that you've done that. Yeah, just keep on practicing it and then allow that to become the backdrop to your daily living. So we'll move on to the 5 love languages. And the reason why I brought this up today is all children want to be seen, heard, understood, and felt. That is how they know that they are loved. And how do we do this? It's through the 5 love languages. So this is by no means my genius. It is a concept that was studied and put together by Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell. I'm purely relaying the magic of this understanding and have used this through my years of working with children in understanding what their love languages are so that I know how to tap into that. So for the younger age group, up to roughly 8 or 9, they need a little bit of every single love language. From 10 upwards, you'll start seeing them gravitate to a certain language, which can possibly change as they get older. It's all about filling their love tank, filling their love cup, so that they have that courage, confidence, and security when dealing with life on the outside, or if they're no longer under your protective umbrella. We tend to love in the language that we like to be loved in. It's quite something to recognize what someone else's love language is and to then love them in that manner. So we'll go through the 5 love languages. The first one is touch. Did you know that the skin is the largest sensory organ in the entire body? It covers everything. And babies learn love through touch. That is their first language. That is their first experience of love in this world. So certain examples of touch can be intentionally, playfully bumping into your child. My son's love language is touch. And as a little kid, whenever he walked past me, he always made sure to bump me or to push me or to make sure that I knew he was there. And I never understood exactly why he was doing it until I came to this concept where the minute he bumped into me and he felt me, that's how he felt loved. And after discovering this over time, I made sure to bump him and give him a little bit of a contact whenever I walk past him to say, hey, buddy, I'm here, you know, and that slowly filled up his love cup during the day. It can be through hugging your child. Some children don't necessarily like to be hugged. Sometimes it's a little bit too close to their personal space. So another way of doing that is literally just sitting down next to them and sitting shoulder to shoulder, or sitting down on the couch and scooching up so that they feel a little bit squashed. So there's different ways of actually showing a child how you love them through touch and hugs. Cuddling a soft item or a stuffy. As I'm sure a lot of you know, children do really enjoy that soft texture. So it's not always the hard touch. It can be a gentle back tickle, or it can be the sensory aspect of holding a really soft stuffy. Foot massages. I don't know if any of you have ever given a child a massage on their feet, but I can guarantee you there will be butter in your hands. They love it. It's absolutely amazing. I often give children foot massages at the end of a yoga class. And in some schools, excuse me, in some schools, the kids actually lift their feet up, ready for me. Tickling a child, you know, having a bit of a rough and tumble on the couch and tickling them either in a hard way or a gentle way is a form of touch. And high-fiving a child is a very easy way of creating that contact initially, but still giving them the space in their personal space. So generally when I meet a child for the first time, I come down to their level, because it's never nice having to look up at the adults and talk to them. And I say, hey, can I give you a high five? And that initial high five is the first contact to say, I see you, I feel you, I understand you, I'm here. Okay, so it can be as simple as that. And then as you see the kids get a little bit older, or they gravitate to certain types of sports, there are certain sports that involve contact, which make the child feel loved. And that can be through basketball or football, any form of contact sport. So my son loves playing basketball, and I've figured out that with his love language of touch, that the basketball really taps into this, and he feels amazing after playing again. So touch has many aspects to it. It's not always the hard touch, but also the gentle touch and the simple high five. I see you, I feel you, I'm here, while still respecting their personal space. The second love language is words of affirmation. So speaking to the effort and not the actual achievement is really key. If you have a look at that picture there, what I do with kids is I throw pom-pom balls on the floor and encourage them and teach them how to pick up the pom-pom balls with their toes and then walk it to a certain area and then drop the pom-pom ball into that area. The encouragement comes through constantly trying to first pick that up. It's quite a challenging concept for some kids. And the reason why it's important to speak to the effort is that they might not always get 100% on their test. They may only get 60% on their test, but that is the best that they can do. So you can go to them and say, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. I'm so amazed because I saw how much effort you put into that. Well done. If you look at a baby trying to walk or stand and you watch parents instinctively, you praise them for trying. You don't say to them, oh my goodness, you fell down, not good enough. You praise them to get back up and do it again. Okay. So the key here is speaking to the efforts, not the results or the achievement or the perfection of what they've done. The word encouragement means to instill courage, which motivates them to want to do more. So catch the kids doing something you like and encourage them to build on that. For example, sharing a toy or being kind to a friend. I call it almost caught in the act, but it's caught in the act in a good way, where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of you. You're such an amazing person being so kind to that person or kind to that child. You can encourage them or give them words of affirmation for helping out without being asked, saying something similar to, I am so impressed with you that you did that and I didn't have to ask you. Or even just during a game, if you see that even though they've won or lost the game, here we go, not speaking to the achievement or perfection, but saying, I love that you have such a positive attitude during the game. Okay, so it's not always the end result of what they've done. It's recognizing and encouraging what it's taken out of them to physically get to performing and that act or going through that class or participating in that sport. And then I love you. That is one of the biggest words of affirmation. And the very important thing with that is it always needs to stand alone. Avoid saying, I love you if you do this for me, or I love you when you clean your room, or I love you, but, and then finish the sentence. Now the word but is an eraser. It takes away that I love you. So it's super important to have I love you as a standalone, not linked to any condition or not linked to anything that they've done. Just pure love. You can put it on post-it notes in and around their lunchbox as a little surprise when they open it up. You can put it across their room. My daughter does that for me often. She leaves post-it notes all over my house. And they're beautiful little words of affirmation. And just take note of how the children show their love to you or show their affection to you, because that is generally a key into knowing what they enjoy and how they need to be loved. But we'll come to that a little bit more later. So words of affirmation are really important. Remember to speak to the effort, not the achievement, perfection, or end goal. Consistently encourage them. And I love you, period. No, with no condition added to it at all. The next love language is quality time. Absolutely undivided attention. It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you meet them where they are at. So undivided attention means no cell phones in hand. You literally switch your cell phone off and pack it away. The minute a message comes through or an email comes through, you'll then get distracted. And that is not giving them that undivided attention. There was a book that I read where it said a child generally only needs 10 minutes a day of your absolute undivided attention. And that will fill their love cup, especially if quality time is part of their love language. That'll fill their love cup up to keep them going for the rest of the day, which then also negates the need for them having to try and get your attention through misbehavior or things that may come across as being seen as naughty or mischievous. So really think about 10 minutes of undivided attention. A child's way of asking for this and asking for your time is as simple as them saying, "Do you want to play?" And really think about that. When a child says to you, "Mom, Dad, or Aunt, or whoever, do you want to come and play with me?" That is their words of saying, "I want to spend time with you. Can you spend time with me?" And it can come through a date night or a coffee date. I've often taken my kids on different occasions out for a date where they know that they have me 100% of the time and it's only the two of us. And I cannot explain to you what magic and confidence that can bring in a child and how it can enhance the relationship between yourself and any child, is really giving them that undivided attention. And a big thing here is what not many people may be aware of is eye contact. Eye contact is so important during this undivided attention, because then the child also knows that you fully see them and you are 100% there. You're not looking around or looking at other things going on. That eye contact is such a key to having the undivided attention. Conversations with the children. I often have a road trip with my kids, and it's amazing the types of discussions that come up during those road trips, where it's actually become a tradition where I give them a voucher for a road trip with me for Christmas. And we decide and we plan in the year ahead as to where we're going to go. And it's just going to be the two of us. And they love that. And what I find is when you're on a road trip, the only thing you can do is talk. It's as simple, it can also be as simple as just going for a walk without your cell phones and possibly playing golf together. It's the activity of doing something together that then brings on the conversation, the discussions. And for me, dinner time is eating together. I understand it is tricky when you have younger kids and trying to time it all together with work schedules and extramurals, but if there's at least once or twice a week where you can arrange to have dinner together with your kids at the same time, again, it's a period of pause out of everyone's life. It's a period where they have to sit and finish their meal, and then naturally certain discussions come up or certain conversations are allowed, which possibly through the rush of the day might not have been possible. So conversations are really key. Reading stories. So more so for the younger kids, I find reading a story at bedtime is so important, because surprisingly, a lot comes out of their sleepy states. It's been a golden moment for me to have that quality time with my kids at bedtime, because again, they're slowly down-regulating, they're slowly shutting down the happenings of the day. And that's when the little things that possibly were bothering them slip out. And often I've spoken to my kids the next morning about it and they didn't remember telling me. So it's a beautiful time to have that quality time and just to close the day off with them knowing that you love them by showing them that quality time. And then it comes to teenagers, which are very different and have almost like a different rule book. But a good way of spending time with teenagers is, for example, going through funny TikToks. You know, TikTok is the latest craze at the moment. Going through funny videos or listening to the music that they enjoy. So that's where I say they do what they want to do, because that's one of the only ways that you will actually be invited to having quality time with them, is showing interest in what interests them. So it's a good way as well. For example, if they are on TikTok, you'd be able to see what's coming through their feed. And specifically when it comes to music, if you start listening to the music that they enjoy, you'll be able to pick up on where they are emotionally according to what music they're listening to. So there is a combination of giving them that undivided attention, having the conversation about what type of music they enjoy and how it makes them feel, or to spark the conversation could be like, hey, I heard you playing this the other day and giggling, you know, like, when do you play this music, or what do you like about it? And then getting into that form of discussion. So really meeting your teenager where they're at. With teenagers, not all of them enjoy eye contact, and they may find it quite pressurizing having the adult next to them, like really looking into their eyes. So give them a little bit of grace and meet them where they're at, but at least do something that they enjoy, okay? Because that's your end, and that'll be your quality time with them. Then the next love language is gifting. So in all cultures, gifting is a universal language of love, but not all gifting is sincere. So, you know, for example, businesses say, thank you for your services, here's a gift. Or I will gift you this holiday away if you start using our hotel resort, you know, type thing. So it's really important that you make sure that gifting is sincere, in the sense of it's not in exchange for doing something. It's not, you got 100% in your test, so I'm going to gift you something. It's not clean your room and I will then gift you something. So it's got nothing to do as an exchange for something that they do or that they are. It's purely coming to the space and say, hey, I've got a gift for you. So it's not linked to any payment of service or a bribe. Okay, just be very clear on that, because it could be seen as going overboard in gifting them too many things. Only you will know what your child needs, or the children in your sphere need, but a simple, non-expensive gift that is thoughtful is what matters the most. So that's the second point, is it needs to be thoughtful. Something linked to either what they're going through at the moment, or if they've mentioned something that they really enjoy doing or that they really like. Not that you have to go out and buy that straight away. See if that consistently comes up, and if gifting is their love language, it'll be received in such an appreciative manner that the fruits from that will just be phenomenal. So there's a story of a couple who have two girls, and they go traveling often. And whenever they go traveling, they come back and they bring their daughters a gift. Only one of their daughters has gifting as her love language. The other daughter's love language is quality time. So the effort comes in purchasing them a thoughtful gift. The one love cup is full, but the other one wants to rather sit down with the parent and talk about their experience of the trip and almost live it with them through quality time. Okay, so it's really important to start picking up what type of love language your child has, or the children in your environment, to then be able to start tapping into it. The important part of gifting is it is not a substitute to emotional involvement. So often with our busy lives, if we feel guilty, sometimes we buy a gift that we know our child desperately wants and feel that, there we go, I've given you my love and I'm done. So please just be aware that your involvement in the gift and your thought behind the gift is the most important part. And wrap it up. Let them know that it's a gift. Make it an opening event and exciting so that it's very clear that they are receiving a gift, and then see what their reaction is or see what their response is. Whereas, for example, if you know your child needs clothes and you just put them on the bed, when they arrive home, the clothes are there, it's not seen as a gift. Okay. But if you wrap it up, put it in a box, possibly give them a little card and just say, I love you, and give that, then it will be received as the gift. Okay. So looking at how children express their gifting is often, I've been given a rock, or I've been given a leaf, that they picked off the tree while they were walking by, or they drew me a picture. And that's their way of showing their appreciation for you, because that's all they have. Picking a favorite flower and then bringing it to you. So when a child gives you that form of a gift, that is a very good understanding of, okay, this is how they're showing their love to me. And then start doing a little bit more investigation as to if this is their love language. But when it is received from a child, they can't wrap it. They can't, put it in a box, or sometimes they can, but majority of the time, if they're bringing you a rock, they've picked it up from the earth and treat it as a gift, and just thank them so much for that. It really is precious being received as such when you're speaking that language with a child. And then we move on to acts of service. So acts of service come in with doing things for your child. So for example, it really does, it depends on the age group, and it does depend on each child. So this whole process is very investigative in seeing what works and how the children respond to it. So doing something for them, for example, a 4-year-old is making a bed. That is a form of act of service. Making the bed for them when they could find it really difficult to do so. When it comes to an 8-year-old, they can make the bed themselves. But how that moves to point number 2 is teaching them how to do things for themselves. That is also an act of service. So teaching them how to make their bed in the morning is an act of service. Teaching children how to do laundry age appropriately serves them for adulthood later on. So the idea is not to almost cripple them in that they don't know how to do anything by doing everything for them. It's working out the slow boundaries as to how much you slowly start teaching them what to do for themselves. A good idea is cooking. Initially, as a little child, you would cook for them. But later on, as they grow older, teach them how to cook. Okay, so teaching them the self-sustaining tools is an act of service. Another thing that you can do in teaching them how to do things for themselves is helping them select their outfit for the next day and putting it out in the bed at night. So teaching them how to make decisions links on to teaching them how to do things for themselves. So generally, I find, also from when they start becoming a little independent, yes, they do at a very younger age, but as they get older, giving them the power of making their own decisions, and then linking into point 3, the consequences of decisions. And it comes through tiny learnings along the way. So for example, you can say to your child or the children around you or in your class or in your environment, what is your plan when you get home? and let them lay out the sequence of what they want to do. And if they've forgotten something, remind them to bring it in and find out exactly when they will do it. So a good way of doing this was, I used to write my children a to-do list of all the chores that they had to do. And I would go from top to bottom and mark it all out. And if they had jumped to the bottom part of the list, I would be like, no, you've got to do this next. And that's where we started bumping heads quite a bit, until I realized I need to let them make the decision. So they wrote out the to-do list of what they needed to do, and they chose which items they were going to do in what sequence. As they were doing it, they would tick it off the list, and I would just come in and see the list as to where they're at. So that's teaching them how to make decisions and leaving them be. Then the consequence is, if you have not finished your chores, you cannot go outside and play. Okay. Or if a child wants to go biking and bike around the neighborhood with the friends, let them know that that's not a problem, that it's possibly going to rain tonight, or there may be dew or mist in the morning. The consequence, if they do not bring their bike back and put it under cover, is that they will not go biking tomorrow. Okay, so allowing those decisions to be made and teaching them in a gentle way, and reminding them that there are always consequences to a decision, but it does put them in an empowering position in that they've been able to choose what they want to do. Another way of doing it is saying to them, for example, and this is quite an extreme one, but it's actually lots of fun if you really do this with kids, is say to them, dessert is a cookie and we're going to have dinner. Do you want to have your dessert before dinner? And if so, the consequence is you need to finish all your dinner. If you do not finish your dinner, you cannot have the cookie next time. So play with that, help them make those decisions and understand that there are consequences to every decision. Okay, so the act of service is not always doing everything for your child. It's also in teaching them to do things, and that there are consequences that are linked to their decisions. So now that you understand all the love languages, how do you find out a child's love language? So discovering your child's love language is a process, and it takes time, especially when the children are younger, because they do tap into all 5 initially. As they start getting older, they then start gravitating to more, sort of more predominantly to certain love languages. So when they're tiny, they're just then beginning to learn how to receive and express love. So just be patient with that. And what I caution you in doing is not explaining this to your kids straight off the bat, because some kids may say that their love language, they might manipulate you a bit and say that their love language is gifting, which means they want the latest iPhone. Okay, that is not what this is about. And you might find that they'll be very clever and let you know how to manipulate you to get certain things out of you. So keep this to yourself and sit back and watch and see what they gravitate to. So firstly, observe how the child expresses love to you. So that comes back to the example of receiving a rock or receiving a plant or receiving a drawing. It's an act of love where they've given you something, they've gifted you something. For example, like my daughter leaving sticky notes for me, I know that that is definitely one way that I communicate with her. And I hide sticky notes all over the place so that she comes across them. Observe how your child expresses love to others. Okay, so it's not always towards you. So if you're in a classroom environment or an environment where there's a lot of children around you, you could actually sit down and just watch and see how they express their love to other people. You might find what I found in children, certain children have this space of personal space, and there may be other children that don't recognize their personal space because their love language is touch. So they want to be on top of you, they want to be next to you, they want to climb into your lap, that type of thing. Whereas in friendships, is one child might need a little bit more personal space than the other one. So it's an interesting dynamic to. You might also find that your child might want to give presents to friends or teachers. You know, you might find them coming home and saying they want to buy their teacher an apple. They might want to buy their teacher a notebook. Have a look at those type of requests that come through. Then listen to what your child requests most often. So for someone that needs words of affirmation in order to fill their love cup, the questions that may come through are, what do you think of the paper I wrote? Or how did I do in the game? Or does this outfit look okay? So those are the types of questions where they're asking for those words of affirmation. So have a look at the languaging they're giving out as to what they need. And it definitely does come through now, knowing exactly what the love languages are. Then the frequency of the complaint. Okay, so if you have a look, possibly if there's a dynamic of a new baby in the family, you might find the child says, "You're always busy. We never go to the store together." That's someone that's asking for quality time. Okay, so whatever the child's complaint is consistently, have a look into that. Come back to the 5 love languages and just try to figure out exactly where that goes. In the beginning, until I realized the sticky notes with my daughter, she said to me, "Mom, you never leave me sticky notes." And there was my cue. I was like, oh my goodness, okay. It was right in front of me. But it just took that second take of her complaining about me not leaving her any. So now I make sure to leave her plenty. Okay. And then a good way to figure out which love language your child prefers or leans towards is by giving them a choice between 2 options and work out which love language each option is and make sure that they are separate. So for example, you can say, "I'm free this afternoon. Would you like to go for a walk in the park?" which is quality time, or to the shops to get a new basketball bat, a new basketball, which is gifting. Okay, and then see what their response is. So if you're really not too sure and you've been able to tap down in one that's really very strong, but you're not too sure about the others, ask them questions that are relevant to their daily being and give them the choice to decide between one or the other. So that's the 5 love languages. And what's so beautiful about this, and especially with my teachings where I come through children, is these love languages play forward into adults as well. It plays forward into your relationships, into your friendships. So if you really have a look at these and use them as the basis of your foundation, it'll be interesting to see how your relationships going forward are managed if you're able to tap into these magic 5 points. All right. And then we move on to the treasure box moment. Now, this is something that I do my absolute best to let every adult know about. And it's really important in keeping the communication channels open, especially with children that are going through transition. It's served me so well as my kids, and it's not to be taken advantage of. It's a tool to be able to guide the children around you or guide your child, rather than shutting them down with judgment, disappointment, or fear of them getting into a tricky situation. So it allows you to be there for them every step of the way. So the guidelines for this is you need to listen when they come to you and they say to you, treasure box moment, okay, undivided attention, eye contact. Sit down and listen to them tell you what's going on without interrupting. Okay, so these are very strict rules to make sure that this container is a safe space for them. Then on your side, there's no reaction to what he said. Okay, so this is one of the hardest parts, but it's part of conscious communication where if you really show fear or disgust or anger in your face, they're going to shut down straight away and they won't continue to tell you what had happened or what had gone on. Okay, there's no shouting or getting angry. Again, when they come to you and say treasure box moment, it's as if you're opening up this magical treasure box safe space. They need to feel heard, seen, understood, and felt in this safe space to be able to open up to you. And then the deal is that you talk about how things could have been done differently in a calm manner, okay? If you need to give yourself a moment and go to your inner resource, you can do, okay, time out. I need to quickly go to my inner resource. I will be right back, so that you can then come forward from that space of peace and calm. And then the fifth one, which may seem contradictory, is there's no punishment. Okay. What happens with children is they generally do not reach out to an adult or tell an adult about what's going on for fear of punishment. What that does is it takes away the learning opportunity which you have in being able to guide them on how to manage this life with a little bit more ease, or how the situation could have been handled from a different point of view. And at the end of the discussion, you close the box and carry on as if everything was back to normal. Okay. Where this has helped a lot, and you'll see it coming through young children initially, is, hey, a treasure box moment. Okay, so let's look at possibly like a 5-year-old. And this is where they'll start testing the boundaries of how this whole treasure box moment works. And they'll say, I stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Okay, then you sit down, and as with smaller children, if you've got a box, open up the box, have this physical thing that the children can relate to. And then you talk about why the child stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and it could come to a discussion of, it's almost dinner time. It's not an appropriate time to eat a cookie, but you can always have the cookie at the end of dinner. Otherwise, you might be too full and not want to eat your dinner, which is a healthier option. That's a simplistic way of speaking about giving the learning opportunity for the child having the courage to come and tell you that they stole the cookie from the cookie jar. On a more serious note, I actually had a friend who used this throughout her daughter's life, and it saved her daughter quite seriously. Her daughter went to a sleepover with some friends, and she didn't realize that they started doing drugs. So the minute she discovered that this was going on, she messaged her mom and said, Mom, treasure box moment, shout at me for leaving my cooler on, and I'm grounded, and that you're going to come and fetch me right now. So the mom knew exactly what was going on, in the sense of this is a treasure box moment, and that her and her daughter had been through this a few times. So they knew the boundaries, and they knew it was a trusted avenue. So the mom phoned the daughter put her on loudspeaker, went off at her, told her she's grounded, and said, I'm coming to fetch you right now. Anyway, she fetched the daughter, took her home. Their daughter couldn't speak that evening because she was so upset by what had gone on. The mom respected her privacy in the sense of that she needed to just figure out exactly how this is going to unfold. So the next morning, the daughter came to her and said, okay, I'm ready to speak. And she explained that her friends were starting to do drugs and she didn't want to be in that environment anymore. thank goodness they'd instilled this and they'd use this as their trusting force to communicate with each other. So yes, in the beginning, it'll be something where I stole the cookie from the cookie jar, but later on in life, it'll definitely help those communication channels with your child. And in this instance, it got her out of a very tricky situation that she didn't know how to handle. So us as adults are there to protect these little souls and to help them and guide them. If they cannot come and speak to us, there's no way of helping them make good choices or make better choices. And if you find with parents in transition, children feel really guilty about possibly something that may be happening in one of the homes. And that's where having the treasure box moment, where there's no reaction from you, I cannot stress that enough. There's no reaction from you. There's no shouting or getting angry. It gives them the safe space to be able to talk about what's going on. And then one rule I didn't mention here is you cannot speak to anybody else about this. So for example, if you find in two parents' homes, something's happening in the one home, okay, yes, with reason. But if something's happening in the home and the child is opened up, you help the child manage that situation. Okay, so I'd say, with caution, within reason, absolutely. I've just found that on my side personally, and a lot of the parents that I've shared this with, it has been a phenomenal tool because children do not want to be punished, but they still want to learn. Okay, so that's really important. And I really hope that this has landed with the way that I wish it to come across. So moving forward, I have a few resources for children to help them with the mindful moments, and they come in various forms. So I have an app called the Little Souls app. It's on the Google Play Store and Apple Store. What it does is it actually teaches children how to breathe through the breathing portion of the app, which is the blue. Once I was in a shopping mall and the child was having a little bit of a meltdown, and I heard the mom say to the child, just breathe. And then the mom walked away. And, I could see that child did not know how to breathe. Okay, so this is why I brought this app into being. It gives the children solid grounding tools in learning the self-regulatory ways of how they can calm themselves down. So it gives them different breathing techniques. It gives them mindfulness games. Even for the older child, if you have a look at, or even for me, for example, sometimes I mindfully scroll through Instagram and I just sort of go brain dead because I'm just trying to settle what's happening during the day. Give yourself a favor, do yourself a favor and download the app. I've got a section there where you can pop bubbles. Okay. And it's actually very therapeutic. When I work with children with the app or when they come through my classes, what I explain to them is every bubble is a thought in your mind. You are not your thoughts. You only become your thoughts when you bring it into your being. Okay. And this way, it gives children the visual and a little bit of decision making in, I do not want this thought, so I'm going to pop it. Okay, so there's a lot more behind the mechanism of just popping the bubbles. And then there's a glitter jar as part of the mindfulness activity there. I've never enjoyed crafting and arts and that type of thing because it was always so messy with my kids. Whereas here you can see a literal glitter jar on the app. And again, what I explain to the kids is, and for us, it's beautiful. Every piece of glitter is a thought in your mind. When emotions are incredibly high, shake the device and the glitter will start moving around. And the only way to bring those thoughts of glitter down to the bottom of the jar is by using your breath, by breathing. Okay. And then once all of that glitter is settled down to the bottom and you can see all the way through the jar, that's when it's a good time to speak. When you can speak with clarity and kindness. Okay, so that's really important. I have some meditations on there, which are simplistic meditations. So very similar to the resource that you went to. I created the Happy Island for children, and that meditation is on there. And I really do encourage you, whichever children you're working with, that you let them listen to that and let them create their happy islands. It's been really interesting through the years as to the different islands that come about. There are, some people have Lego Island, some have Nintendo Island, some have Fortnite Island. It just really depends on where the child is at, and let them know that they can go to their happy island, get all the magic and peace from being there, and bring it back to where they're at. I have music on the app, which is linked to calming music, calming sounds, and a heartbeat, river, water running, the sound of rain, the sound of birds, the sound of nature. And I find that's for some children, if they gravitate to a certain sound of music, let them listen to that whenever they need a mindful moment or when it comes to bedtime, because eventually their body will then recognize, okay, now I can let go. Okay, now my day is done. Now I can relax. And then there's a second portion of binaural beats, which is linked to bringing in the lower brainwaves of theta and beta brainwaves, which bring on the calm. It's very, very similar to that moment just before children fall asleep. And the way that's brought across is through the waves of the music is what the brain tries to mimic. So it's very important to have headphones on because it's different sounds in different ears, but it still sounds really amazing. And there's a few different sounds that have specifically been made for ADHD, for relaxation, for calm, for sleep. And then lastly, I have morning and evening yoga classes on there, which will expand over time. And then moving on to the mindfulness box. This box comes with 10 mindfulness activities to teach children how to bring on inner calm and to encourage self-regulation. What I found is I have my box of tools that I use and that I bring out. And it's my incense, it's my crystals, it's everything that helps me feel good. Even a card from a loved one. Part of my words of affirmation is I put that into my box. And when I'm not feeling so great, I go and I open up my box and I use the tools that are in there to help me feel better. And that's how this mindfulness box came to being. So the box comes with access to 10 videos explaining what the items are and how to play with it and what it helps with. So I do encourage the adult that is with the child to watch the videos at the same time. They're only 5 to 7 minutes long, so that you can understand the languaging and you understand how to encourage the relevant activity and what it is there for and how it activates the parasympathetic nervous system to bring them down to rest and digest. And then over time, you'll see that each child gravitates to a different item because they know what feels good and they know that they can do it anytime they need to. With these tools later on, if their journey increases into yoga, they'll realize the reasoning behind all of these. And then I teach yoga classes in studios, in schools, online, in person. I do deal with some children that have very high anxiety in teaching them how to firstly recognize their emotions. So for example, we've got anger, sadness, joy, fear, courage, and disgust. And once they're able to recognize the emotion, I give them the tools of how to work with that emotion. So a different concept, which not many will be aware of, that every emotion is linked to the breath. Okay, so the breath is the most powerful tool. If you have a look at what happens when someone gets really bad news, the first thing that it affects is their breath. They go, oh, okay. So just watch when you are dealing with people that are highly stressed, is watch their breath. That's where these classes bring in a lot of breath activity in teaching them different types of breaths for each emotion and helping them use their bodies to help them breathe, which is really important. And then we finish off with a meditation each time, which is linked to the relevant emotion. So just the awareness that children get from firstly being able to recognize the emotion that they're feeling. And then it's like textbook, the tools are there as to exactly what they can use to help calm themselves down or help themselves through that tricky situation. And then finally, I am holding a children's yoga teacher training, which is coming up now in July. And you do not need to be a yoga teacher to come to this. What it is empowering you in different ways of understanding and relating to children. So it can be anyone that works in the child sphere. When I first took my training, it totally transformed my relationship with my kids, in that I was finally able to access my own inner child, which helped me to then relate to them. So if you have any questions on that, by all means, reach out. And then lastly, I'm open for any questions that you may have. And if not, you can reach me through Instagram, through Twitter and Facebook on those different handles.
Well, this is fascinating. You certainly have taught us a lot.
There's a lot of gold in there, a lot of concepts.
For sure, for sure. So would you have any suggestions as to if you're dealing with a family that has children that are stressed out by their separation or divorce? Is there ways that they can or that we could help them understand that there would be different ways that they could react with their children, or that they could help their children understand?
Yes, and I think the biggest part is that the child needs to make 100% sure that they are loved. And that's how it comes through the 5 love languages. If both parents understand and agree on the different type of love languages that their children have, as long as they are able to give their children that grounding of knowing that they are seen, heard, felt, and understood, that is a huge thing. And then on a different note is I have seen that sometimes the parents are going through a lot themselves, that they aren't always able to be there for the children. And it's human nature. And, we're all doing the best that we can. And that's where the self-regulatory tools come into play, in teaching the child how to breathe, teaching the child what emotion are you feeling, so that we can then move that energy through your body and move it along. Because every emotion is energy. They just come through in different forms. For example, anger is a really fast energy. It comes in and it goes as quickly as it came in, as quickly as it left. It's how we deal with that energy in its heightened emotion that will then help prevent any damage to relationships after. So very much into the self-regulation, and that can come through the app, where if a child is feeling very overwhelmed with what's going on, they can go to the app and they can breathe. If they don't have an adult nearby, or they don't have me teaching them, use the app to help them breathe. If there's been an argument that's been going on and they feel unsettled, go to the bubble portion of the app or listen to some music to help calm themselves down. So even when the parent is going through their own stresses or heightened emotion and they're not able to be there for the child, at least there are some tools that the child will be able to do to help themselves.
Yeah, it certainly sounds interesting. And it sounds as though a lot of couples going through this could adapt these tools too. Absolutely,
yes. And especially to learning the love languages. So fair enough, possibly a relationship has broken down, but just relating to the other person with respect by showing the love languages could make quite a difference in how everything is handled in the end.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It certainly would. Does anyone else have any questions? you've made everyone super peaceful on the night.
Okay, so the meditation was really good. I do have a link. Linda, what I'll do is I'll send it to you. And it's just a QR code that you can scan, and then you'll go through to my YouTube channel where you can listen to that meditation again. So share it far and wide.
For sure.
Yeah, just remember to go to your very own sanctuary first before you're able to deal with what's happening on the outside.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Everybody has homework. You have to find your happy island, and you have to make a mindfulness box.
Absolutely. Or come to me, let me know. Yeah, my mindfulness box, it's incense, it's crystals. I have some like a card from a loved one. I do use tarot cards as well, but that's not a prerequisite. It could be essential oils, just anything that does bring on a bit of calm. And I even travel with mine when I go traveling around.
Well, yeah, traveling can be stressful, and I think even more so in our world today, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm all here. If anyone wants to reach out after, please, by all means, I'm here for the kids and for you, and however way we can try and make this transition as easy as possible for them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I don't know if anybody else would say that, but I would certainly say I've had plenty of clients that acted more like a child than their children. And so if they were to adapt some of these tools, maybe they'd be able to move forward in their lives a lot better.
Absolutely. And hopefully it'll come through their children in teaching them these tools.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. It sounds amazing. I'll just check if there's any other questions before we let Tarryn go. No, I think you're free to go. I appreciate very much what you've shown us, and I think it'll be certainly very useful in our own practices, and to be able to have the tools to show our clients what could be helpful with dealing with situations like this for their families.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everybody for listening. Okay. All right.
Yeah, bye-bye. So basically, you'll have a little extra break because we are done a little bit earlier. So I encourage you to go have lunch or do whatever. Don't just use email time all. And we'll see you back at 2:45 with Melanie Russell. Bye.
Linda,
Yeah?
is it okay if I log out and log back in? I'm going to go work from home the